morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all joining us today. Thank you again for all of your continued support with our webinar series. I'm enthusiastic about today's session as it's one of the key nexus areas of my passion: food security, water scarcity, and agriculture. As a quick introduction, I'm Meena Sankaran, founder and CEO of KETOS. Our mission at KETOS since September 2015, and believe it or not, we're almost 9 years now, has been to really deliver actionable water insights for all of our users across industrial, agriculture, and municipalities. Now, we currently serve in 9 countries, including US, and we monitor a wide variety of water matrices, including surface water, groundwater, wastewater, produced water, roughly around 45 billion gallons to help customers run affordable, efficient, and sustainable operations. Today, we have a special guest whose experience spans across agriculture and water in a unique way that allows us to think about out of the box about water rights, water banking, groundwater monitoring, irrigation, shifts in weather patterns, and the impact of all this within agriculture and food security. KETOS has been honored to work with RRG since 2018. So without further delay, please join me in welcoming Nick Gatti from Atlas Water, a subsidiary of RRG. Glad to have you joining us, Nick.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So Nick, obviously you're way better than me trying to explain people what your background and your role is. So I'm going to give you the floor and would love to hear from you just a bit about your background, your expertise relating to, sort of water, but also the blend of how water and agriculture. It was quite unique for me to hear how you came about into that fold rather than just sort of traditional farming. So please, the floor is yours.
Sure. Well, again, thank you very much. Yeah, a little bit of background on myself. I began in the public water sector here in California in 2005, and working for a agency that had a contract with the State Department of Water Resources for a water supply off the California aqueduct. Much of that water was delivered here in the southern San Joaquin Valley of California, primarily all for agricultural purposes, mainly all permanent crops: almonds, pistachios, citrus, grapes. And much of my work entailed overseeing groundwater banking projects that really assist local water districts meet their agricultural demands during dry years. So if you recall where we are located here in California in the southern San Joaquin Valley, annual precipitation, may range somewhere between 5 to 10 inches annually. So it's oftentimes not enough to help those ag districts and their customers meet their demands. And so what we have implemented here and, is really quite remarkable is all the groundwater banking projects throughout the valley really allow folks to take advantage of those wet years, store that water in the underground aquifer, allowing for future extraction of that water and allowing folks to continue to farm and continue irrigating their crops, even when we do experience those dry years. So I did oversee several of those projects here in the valley when I first got started, and have done that for almost 20 years. My current role here with Atlas and RRG is Water Resources Manager, and I do oversee our groundwater and surface water supplies. So again, it's either directing those to our recharge projects or directly to our customers for their use on farm.
Got it. No, it's fascinating, Nick. And personally, for me, it's been very interesting learning about groundwater banking. And as you briefly mentioned on this, right? Like California's water crisis is complex. It's political. It has many contributing factors. But over pumping groundwater has also been interesting when you look online about, there's 5,300 domestic wells that could, have gone dry since 2014, and they could cause it to go even 9,200 wells by 2040. And we all understand that agriculture uses about 77% of California's water. How have you seen the need of what farmers and other public and private entities coming to you? How have you been able to sort of serve that, from your experience? What are some of the key priorities for RRG when you're working with that focus with your clients?
Yeah, so really trying to bridge that gap in those dry years and the wet years, and allowing folks to continue the ag way of life here in California, and helping to grow those crops for the country and for the world. So really, water supply reliability is one of our critical components that we do see here in California and in the San Joaquin Valley. As I mentioned, we can't always rely upon Mother Nature, and so we really do have to use the facilities that have been implemented here, whether they be various delivery systems or the groundwater banking projects. You mentioned recovery wells, so there is oftentimes that improvement in water quality that we're seeing, whether it be the surface water supplies that we do receive, oftentimes off the Sierras are of, very good water quality. So people do rely upon that. And if there is the need to then blend with groundwater, water supply and water quality do kind of go hand in hand. So being able to identify, what the groundwater quality blend is for delivery on farm is really important. So, the two real key components that I'm seeing are groundwater supply or water supply reliability and water quality as well.
No, it's very insightful. And I was rather shocked to learn that currently, 8 states are trending towards running out of water in the US alone. I mean, most of the times when I tell anything about water quality, people usually assume I'm talking about underdeveloped countries, or, I'm talking about a region in Africa, or because we work in other countries outside US, they almost assume it's non-US. And, so when you look at California and with what you guys have been specifically doing for supporting your clients during these fluctuating weather patterns, Nick, how critical has water monitoring been for you? I mean, your entire business leans on that. And would you, if you want to talk a little bit about water quality versus water quantity, and how do you perceive that for your operations when you're working through those criticality? I mean, your title is water resources manager. It doesn't get more clear than that.
Yeah, so really trying to secure that water supply is important. Obviously, without water, it's really the lifeline to the ag way of life here in the valley. And as you mentioned, water quality is super important as well. So being able to monitor what is being extracted from the wells, and being able to identify, should there be some blend of both surface water and groundwater to the farms is super important. So being able to know, kind of on a real-time basis, hey, what are our wells producing? That way our customers know what to expect and what type of blending needs to occur are very important components of the job and the operation. So it has been a tremendous benefit to be able to see those data on a real-time basis.
Yeah, it's awesome. And by the way, great tips, Nick. I almost want to share this recording with kind of the north of your state, the Silicon Valley folks too. A lot of the conversations I've had in the past when I've talked about water quality, the question's always been, oh, are you starting a nonprofit, 10 years ago? Little sometimes do people dig in to realize the complexity of how we live with water on a day-to-day basis. That's not necessarily just pertaining to a nonprofit. But you brought something up, Nick, that's really important. One is like understanding water quality in real time, so you're able to have that intelligence for your clients. We as part of our development, working with RRG has been, just so the audience is clear and kind of expand their mind. Not only are you able to get a sense of what the water composition is in real time, but we've also gone one step ahead, and we've been able to take, okay, how does the satellite look here? Satellite data, how does the imaging look here? How does the crop data specifically, attribute towards that decision making? Take the water quality data, and then you're able to truly optimize your yield. So what we've seen, Nick, is taking that one step further with growers, and then helping them take a multitude of factors and leveraging our AI models that we've built for 6 years now, and giving them a sense of, okay, if your boron was fluctuating or your nitrates or orthophosphates, how does that all blend in into your decision making, for whether it's your crop yield, getting it to the optimal level that you need, and also reducing, managing your rural runoff. So that has been, I'd say, a very key part of, how we're able to generate value from like a proactive nutrient water management. That being said, how, you're sort of like working with your clients, how do you see the value of ketos from, serving your needs, a long time now, several years, when it comes to just having greater visibility in your operations?
Yeah, it has been really beneficial. And like you were saying, I know that the farming entities actually do recognize a benefit to it as well. I mean, what you were saying is it sounds like there's quite a bit of information available to them now, whether it be not only being the water quality specifically, but more on their farming side of things. So, being able to bridge that gap and provide, the farming entities with as much information as possible to help them make, real-time decisions based upon not only water quality, but environmental factors and other various components that are really going to dictate decisions and impact dollars on their side of things. So the more information that can be provided, all the better. And yeah, so not only on the water side is it important to us, but on the farming side, it's maybe doubly important because they're having to consider multiple factors as well.
No, that's great. And Nick, how, and I hope everyone in the audience here, you're able to capture some wisdom nuggets and apply that in your thought process. There's a lot of shift between vertical farming, indoor ag, and open field ag, for weather concerns alone. But hopefully people are able to see the variations of what you can do as part of large commercial open farming. So Nick, we have quite a diverse audience typically, from industrial, agriculture, as well as municipality, and other folks. So what advice would you have for, farmers, farmer co-ops, others concerned about, just ways of adoption and applying new technologies, or even working with you, how do they learn more? How can they engage more? Just anything you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, consider making the leap and adopting some technologies that may be outside your box, and feel free to reach out to any of us, and we can discuss how it's been beneficial on our side of things. As we mentioned before, folks can really identify some decisions that are going to be made, whether it be on the farm or in their municipal or industrial services, and how KETOS and the technology can really benefit their operations. As we mentioned, identifying real-time decisions that need to be made, and how to potentially save on costs on their side. I think it's a real asset and benefit for folks to implement technology that can help them to get ahead. We've been really happy to work with you folks over the last few years, and like I said, feel free to reach out to us and others, and we can discuss all the benefits we've seen.
Oh, thank you, Nick. Very kind and thoughtful response there. Hopefully, Nick and I have been able to get people to just pause and, be more foresighted in your planning as you think through a variety of options out there. Another important piece of insight, from me for the decision makers out there and planners, not every technology has to be owned. I think the other sort of false belief, just based on how the industry has been set up, is that you have to purchase all equipment, especially in the ag front of the world. So what I wanted to share was that you may or may not be aware that with KETOS, you're not purchasing that equipment. So KETOS is actually maintaining, owning, and servicing that equipment and solution for you. So you don't have to become an overnight expert or have the knowledge to suddenly maintain a new technology with all that you have committed for your day-to-day, or have to deal with any concerns around the technology going obsolete or the shelf life of the equipment and the solution. These are such common issues we hear from operators all the time. So having a flat, predictable annual subscription free allows users to really maintain strong unit economics, like Nick mentioned, the efficiency that you can extract from your operations, the ROI that you can potentially get within a couple of weeks of post install, and then you're able to focus entirely on the value of the actionable data and how you're generating value for your clients. So that's where I really want people to think about. Tech needs to be an enabler, an accelerator, not necessarily cripple you. So be mindful of when you're looking at technology, not just the innovation, but also the business model. So Nick, any parting suggestions on a wish list for ag tech? I mean, you've seen the muni side, you've seen kind of the public side, you've seen a bit on the ag side. Like, if you had a magic wand, like, Meena, can someone solve that tech? Like, have you guys not thought about this? Is there anything like that you have in your pocket?
I don't know if I have anything in my pocket like quite like that, but like I said, I would just say, feel free to reach out and tap into the resources that are out there and see what you might be able to obtain and how best you can optimize your system. And information like this is really beneficial.
So for all the folks out there, I know we're running out of time, but please reach out to Nick to learn, especially about groundwater banking, and really understand the intricacies on this topic, because I'm sure he can talk for a couple hours on this. And so I really appreciate your time, Nick, in keeping us on track. One interesting question that's popped from the audience, and I'd be curious, when you guys are making decisions on crops, Nick, crops are so vulnerable and so particular about weather patterns and just the dependency on water. You said briefly early on that you were engaged with permanent crops like almonds, pistachios. We've personally worked, obviously, through you on those, but also grapes. So do you prefer to work with certain crops when you make decisions? How do you plan to work with different ag lands?
So our lands, we don't necessarily identify the crops to work with. There's this where we're currently located are the crops that are around our particular assets. And so there are a multitude of crops within the valley, particularly where we're located. They are, either almonds or pistachios that are adjacent to our facility. So those are the crops that we're a little bit more familiar with as it relates to the keto systems. But, as I said before, I think folks, no matter what crop you are producing, could see some benefit to KETOS and the technology that it would allow you to ascertain.
Got it. Well, thank you
on a
so
real-time
much.
basis.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Nick. I remain curious as ever. As you can tell, I'm always learning, and there's so much to move here. And I've been learning a lot about the commercial crops versus permanent crops, and just a wide variety of the grower data scientist community that's coming up now as well. So there's a lot to unpack here, and I hope everyone enjoyed this brief Q&A session, whether you were sitting with your cup of coffee or a glass of wine, depending on where you dialed in from. Thank you to all of you who have continued to take time out of your precious day to listen to us. Feel free to learn more about KETOS at info@ketos.co or www.ketos.co. I look forward to continue sharing with you the value of what we hope to generate and continue generating, whether it's increasing visibility for you, or in this case, whether it's decreasing fertilizer intake or helping our farming communities and improving quality of rural runoff on water. So with that, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.